I didn't love the new 007 James Bond movie as much as everyone else. No Time to Die. Uh, to get my problems out of the way, I'm gonna keep this spoiler free as long as I can. Even though I got spoiled for me 2 months before the movie even came out, don't know how that happened, but I'll get into that more later. So the negatives that are concerning are the ending is dumb, which I got the very dumb ending spoiled for me, and I don't like the presentation of it. The concept is good, but the execution is terrible, and the writing of it is terrible. The writing in the entire movie is really bad. The story is mediocre at best. The new characters range from like really good with Ana Diaramis to really like the new 007, which is just a boring character. She could have been a really cool character. Like, I could see this being like a really like cool character that if she was more fleshed out, and I don't know. The advertising definitely sold this movie as a different movie than it actually was, which I'm glad. And its argument about like this being the only movie with strong female characters is a definite lie, as one of my issues with the female 007 is that she's not really a strong, capable character. uh yeah, she's just kind of a flat, boring character. More issues with the movie. There's a tonally the movie is jarring. It goes from trying to be gritty, grounded, and serious to being like goofy stuff that would be like pre-Craig era, which is the stuff I hate and why I didn't like James Bond. But then I started liking James Bond with the Craig era. So then when Spectre, my least favorite of the franchise, went back to the pre Craig era, that's when I started falling off the bandwagon of loving the franchise. Just because it got goofier and I didn't like that. It felt like it clashed with the seriousness too much, and it just didn't work for me. And I'm sad to say that that happens again with this one, though this movie is a little bit better than Spectre, but still not as good as all the other Bond movies. Even Qualm of Solace, I will still defend that movie. Qualm of Solace is better than No Time to Die. Don't at me. I know that's an offensive opinion. The action, I would even argue, is better in Qualm of Solace, despite being like cut everywhere, because I found it more memorable. Here, this whole movie is like extremely forgettable, even though it's a pleasant watch. The action is very standard. There's no fun choreography. There's no wow moments. It just like passes you by, and then you literally forget what you just watched. I remembered after I got out of the theater, I literally forgot the whole movie, like instantaneously. I couldn't recall a single thing that happened over 3 hours. That's another thing. 3 hours is way too long, but there's not really anything you can cut out of it. So it's just like, oh well, at least it doesn't feel as egregiously overlong and boring as Spectre did, so that's good. Uh, I guess I could move on to positives now. I feel like I've complained enough. This is definitely Daniel Craig's best James Bond performance. They've definitely fleshed out the character of James Bond best for his final installment, which is a shame. I wish they would have done that in an earlier film to actually flesh him out, instead of I'm macho cool guy who is invincible in every film until this one, where it's like, wait, he's vulnerable, he has emotions in this one. Like, it shouldn't be like that drastic of a change. It shouldn't feel that different to all the other ones to be like, wait, he is a human being who has real relationships with women. It shouldn't feel like that, but it does. uh the stunts also I didn't feel were like as impressive as with the other James Bond films. I'm still shocked that Qualm of Solace was like more surprisingly entertaining than this movie in my opinion, which is again a controversial opinion because everyone puts this one above that one. Everyone clearly enjoyed this one more than I did, but I enjoyed Qualm of Solace more than everyone else did, so I guess that's fair. Though I feel like I was kind of robbed with this movie because there's great ideas in this movie, but they're just executed terribly because the writing is so poor. Like they didn't have enough time to like properly write and execute these ideas with like complexity and like good dialogue. And I don't know, wait, there's just it's a very problematic movie. There's just problems everywhere, and I just take issue with almost everything in the movie. There's only like a couple of things I actually liked about the movie: the cast of characters, the actors that played them. uh the action is so choppy, like almost Qualm of Solace levels, and it just feels boring Hollywood standard stuff. Nothing in the movie surprises me. It does the Star Trek Into Darkness thing where there's like a thing that I guess could be shocking to someone, but if you've been following all the updates of the movie throughout the years, and it's the same thing happening with the new Spider-Man movie. The producers were like, no matter what we do with the movie, we're not doing this one thing, and then they do the one thing. And it's something they've been saying for years. They literally let go of the original director because he wanted to do the one thing that in this movie that they end up doing eventually with another director. So what was the point in firing Danny Boyle? I have no idea. Maybe it's just because I'm a huge Danny Boyle fan. I love the director that they picked as well. I loved the Netflix series Maniac. I love True Detective. I really liked Beasts of No Nation. I think he's a great director. And I don't have any complaints about him helming this movie. I just have complaints about the fact that they fired someone for doing what they ended up doing eventually, anyways, and then lying to their audience about them doing spoiler, and then they did spoiler. It feels really cheap, and the execution of the idea was like story wise the dumbest possible way they could do it, so it felt like they wasted the good idea by doing it the dumbest possible way they could, to the point where I was laughing hysterically at this supposedly dramatic scene. And I hate how like they have this orchestra like really just like blaring loud where you can't hear anything else, and like it doesn't allow you to like feel the actual emotion of the scene. It feels like it's more forcing you to feel what it wants you to feel in that scene, and like it felt like it was taking away any goodwill and like actual emotion I had built up during that film. It took away the 2.5 hours of build up where I was actually getting emotionally attached to this character. It just scrapped it. I didn't care about James Bond by the end of the film because of the orchestra. It told me to force things, and then I just couldn't anymore. I was laughing instead. uh I just couldn't care about the end of an era when you end with that bad of a whimper. So yeah, I'm really upset about how they end things, but at least the film was fine. It's just a very forgettable average outing that I have to place like second to worst out of the Craig era. It's still like a good film that I would mostly recommend. I guess it's like a 7 out of 10, maybe 6. I don't know. Uh I'm trying to think what else I wanted to comment on. Some of the cinematography was nice. I like that the Lisa Do. I apologize if I get any of these names wrong. I like that they're treating her like an actual character in these last couple of movies. I just wish that they didn't have to do so many cliches and tropes that have been very popular to do in the last like 12 years that every franchise seems to be doing. Like it feels like this movie meshes together all the dramatic cliches of like Rogue One, Logan, and I could name like 20 other movies that this movie copycat just because it was something successful and popular. I guess it was popular, but in a way that was successful is what I'm trying to get at. And that really bugs me. Uh, so if you've not seen No Time to Die, I'm gonna get into spoilers now for the part that irks me. So I don't really like the gadgets are fine. All right. It's fine having like sciencey tech or whatever, but this one takes it a step too far in the goofy factor. With there being the spoilers, by the way. I hope you've clicked off if you haven't seen the movie. There's like this weird like poison gas, and like it's has like really weird like Kingsman logic, which Kingsman is like a parody of Bond, so it doesn't make any sense why at whatsoever how they explain it. And the villain's motivations also don't make any sense. He literally like recites the monologue from the first Avengers that Loki says. Like Rami Malek, I love him as an actor. He's like great in almost everything, but here he kind of just phones it in. I thought he was like probably the weakest Bond villain of the Craig era. Uh, yeah, the ending that I complain about, where I thought was funny, is when James Bond dies, which is a great concept, killing off James Bond, which hasn't been done before, and is what got Danny Boyle fired. But then they do it in the worst way possible, which is they overkill him, but in the most like cartoonish Saturday morning way I've ever seen a movie do, while trying to pretend like, no, no, it's dramatic. We're gonna flare opera music. And it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And they cut to all these like reaction shots of all the characters crying and moping about. It's hysterically bad. Like all these explosions exploding into other explosions while the characters already like poisoned and like shot up and like had grenades explode into him. It's like overkill. It's like ridiculous. It's hilarious. It's like the ending of Rogue One on steroids. And there's like ridiculous cinematography. It feels like the one of the early pre-Craig movies with that character death, and I was hoping for a more grounded way to kill him off. Like, if he had just died from like sustaining too many wounds, like if he took too much gunfire, that would be like a grounded, gritty way that I would expect a Craig Bond to die. And I would definitely accept that. I would think that would be really cool that they killed him off in a way that fit the whole mold of his story. That would be rad. They just shouldn't have done the fan servicey uh pre-Craig era stuff, because that just felt like pandering, and I really didn't like that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Sorry that I didn't enjoy it as much. I enjoyed it in the moment, but then after I finished it, I was like, well, that was just kind of crap, wasn't it? But since finishing it, I'm like, yeah, it's more so an ending that sours the experience, but the actual experience itself was